We're using your tax return for my kids' camp. $18,000, my fiancée announced. How did you know about that? I asked. Her mom laughed. We check your mail when you're at work. I smiled. Called Air. Please send all documents to my new address. When they tried to access the funds and realized I'd quietly moved everything. My name is Aaron. And by the time my fiancé's mother proudly confessed to committing a federal crime over my morning coffee, I was already 3 steps ahead of both of them. That was the funny part. The tragic part was that 6 months earlier, I would have married her. Say something, Camila said, sitting at my kitchen island like she owned it. Which, to be fair, she practically acted like she did. Her manicured fingers tapped against a brochure covered in smiling children, in matching polo shirts, standing in front of canoes, horses, and what looked like an aggressively expensive lake. We need to register Tyler and Brooke this week. Her mother, Linda, leaned back in the chair beside her, wrapped in one of my sweaters, like a queen who had conquered a minor nation, and immediately started criticizing the drapes. I looked down at the brochure. Silver Pines Leadership Camp. 8 weeks. Elite STEM program. Riding, sailing, tennis. Foreign language immersion. Some kind of wilderness confidence workshop where rich children probably learned how to roast marshmallows with emotional intelligence. At the bottom, highlighted in yellow, was the amount. $18,000. For both kids? I asked. For the full experience, Camila said with a sigh, as if I were being annoyingly slow. You know they deserve this after everything they've been through. The phrase everything they've been through was doing some Olympic-level heavy lifting. Tyler had been suspended twice for mocking teachers on TikTok, and Brooke had recently glued rhinestones onto Linda's poodle because she said the dog looked emotionally underdressed. What does this have to do with my tax return? I asked. Camila didn't blink. We're using it. I stared at her. Linda smiled with the warm smugness of a woman who had spent years mistaking entitlement for family values. You're getting $18,000 back, give or take, she said. Perfect timing. I set down my coffee mug very carefully. How? I asked. Do you know how much I'm getting back? Camila exchanged the fastest glance with her mother, which told me everything before either of them spoke. Linda laughed first. Oh, honey, don't act so dramatic. We check your mail when you're at work. The room went silent. Now, a normal man might have exploded. A normal fiancé might have shouted, knocked over a chair, demanded explanations, maybe thrown somebody in their camp brochure out the front door. I am not a normal man. I am a private detective. I make a living by staying calm while stupid people reveal too much. So I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I had just found the thread, and I already knew how hard I could pull. I picked up my phone, found the HR number for the investigative firm I contracted through for corporate cases, and hit call. Camila frowned. What are you doing? I lifted one finger. Hi, this is Aaron Hale. I need all tax documents, insurance forms, payroll notices, and any future mailed correspondence redirected to my new address immediately. Yes, starting today. And please mark the old address inactive. Thank you. I hung up. Camila stared at me. Linda's lips parted. What new address? Camila asked. I took a slow sip of coffee. The one I moved into yesterday. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost artistic. Linda let out a bark of laughter, but it was the kind people make when they're trying to convince themselves the house isn't actually on fire. Stop being ridiculous, she snapped. What are you talking about? I'm talking about a mailbox you can't open, I said. A bank account you can't access. A forwarding request already filed. Passwords changed. Documents removed. Spare keys deactivated. And an engagement that ended about 10 seconds after your confession. Camila stood up so quickly the chair legs scraped hard across the tile. You are not doing this over summer camp. No, I said. I'm doing this over mail fraud, identity exposure, financial manipulation, and the fact that your mother says we whenever she means your money. The camp is just the comedy section. Linda slapped her palm on the counter. You ungrateful little snake. After all we've done for you, I laughed. And that really offended her, because the one thing parasites hate is being laughed at while they're still trying to act like hosts. To understand how I ended up sharing a kitchen with two women who treated federal male privacy laws like optional etiquette, you have to understand something about people like Camilla. They never begin with demands. They begin with gratitude. I met her 11 months earlier at a charity auction downtown. I was there because my friend Nate insisted I needed human contact that wasn't surveillance footage. She was beautiful, funny, sharp enough to keep up with me, and carried herself with the practiced exhaustion of a single mother who wanted to look brave while also being discovered. She had 2 children, a charming smile, and a talent for making every hardship sound noble rather than suspicious. She told me about her divorce from Greg, a man she described as emotionally useless, financially unreliable, and spiritually allergic to commitment. She told me she had rebuilt everything from scratch. She told me she wasn't looking for a savior. Then she looked at me like she hoped I'd volunteer anyway. I did. At first, it felt reasonable. Dinner here, school supplies there. A weekend trip because the kids needed normal memories. A contribution toward Brooke's dental work. New tires because Camila's car was unsafe for the children. Then Tyler needed a laptop. Then Linda's water heater died. Then Camila's freelance branding client vanished without paying her. Then school registration fees hit at the same time as cheer uniforms and property tax escrow and some mysterious emergency involving a poodle groomer. Every time I hesitated, Camila had the same look. Not angry. Hurt. As if my refusal would not mean I had boundaries, but that I had failed a moral test. Only she could grade. The thing is, I could afford it. I did well. I handled cheating spouses, corporate asset tracing, background investigations, insurance fraud, and the occasional deeply weird family drama that started with missing jewelry and ended with somebody hiding cash in a bait freezer. People lie more than they budget, and both habits kept me employed. So it wasn't the money that bothered me at first, it was the assumption. Camila never asked whether I wanted to help. She asked how soon I could. And Linda, God, Linda didn't even pretend. She arrived at my house like an auditor from hell. She opened cabinets without asking, commented on my furniture, suggested I upgrade my living room if I wanted to look like a stable father figure. Once she said my wine glasses gave off temporary male energy, which remains the single dumbest insult I have ever received professionally or personally. Still, I tolerated her. For the kids, for the relationship, for the possibility that what looked like entitlement was just stress viewed through expensive sunglasses. Then, 3 weeks before the camp conversation, I came home early from a surveillance job and heard voices in my office. My office. The door wasn't fully closed. Inside, Camila and Linda were going through the drawer where I kept unopened statements, business envelopes, and records I hadn't filed yet. Linda held up one envelope and squinted. Is this bank or tax? Tax, Camila said. Open it carefully. I didn't move. I just listened. If the return hits before the wedding, great, Linda said. If not, get him to put you on the account first. Camila laughed softly. He still thinks everything is about trust. Linda snorted. Men always think that when they've got money and a hero complex. And if he resists? Linda shrugged. Then cry. Mention the kids. Mention stability. Mention how traumatized Brooke was after Greg forgot her dance recital. Men love paying for emotional nouns. I stood there in the hallway and felt something inside me go very still. Not broken, not hurt, sordid. That's the real danger point for liars. Not when you get emotional, when you get organized. The next day, I opened a case file. On my own fiancé. I didn't need illegal tricks. I never do. Most people who think they're clever are just loud in ways they don't notice. I reviewed home security logs, doorbell footage, package deliveries, access times. I placed a tiny legal interior camera above the bookshelf in my office, where it only captured the desk and filing drawer. I mirrored activity on the shared tablet Camila used for streaming shows. I pulled public records, quietly reviewed her civil history, looked deeper into the divorce, cross-checked names she had mentioned casually, verified debts, compared stories to timelines. The results would have been funny if they weren't aimed at my life. Camila had more credit card debt than she admitted. Linda had a habit of borrowing from relatives and repaying them in the form of offended outrage whenever they asked for it back. Greg, the allegedly deadbeat ex, was in fact paying child support regularly, just not into the account Camila had described. She had redirected multiple personal expenses through a business account attached to one of her freelance LLCs. She was behind on car payments. Linda owed a medical spa nearly $4,000. And the children's camp? There was no enrollment, no deposit, no saved spot. The brochure was real. The plan was not. Camp was just the emotional packaging for a cash grab. That was when I stopped feeling betrayed and started feeling insulted. She didn't just think I was generous. She thought I was stupid. So I leased a furnished apartment across town, under my own name, signed digitally, paid upfront, and moved essentials over 3 evenings while Camila assumed I was on late surveillance assignments. I changed my mailing address, notified payroll and HR, opened a new private mailbox, shifted liquid funds into accounts she had never seen, moved my firearms, case files, external drives, backup phone, watch collection, and the old leather journal my father gave me when I first got my investigator license. I even removed the framed photo of the 4 of us at the fall fair because I didn't want Linda using it later for some performance about abandoned family. Then I waited. A professional knows the value of letting bad people step fully into the trap they built themselves, which is why, on that bright Tuesday morning, when Linda happily announced they checked my mail and already counted my tax return, I didn't argue. I redirected. Then I watched. By Friday, the first forwarded document hit the new address. By Monday, they knew. I was parked half a block away in an unmarked gray sedan I used for work when the courier delivered what should have been my tax notice to the old house. It wasn't the money. It was only the update letter explaining the prior redirect and online access confirmation. Camila opened it on the porch. Even from the car, I could see the change in her face. Confusion first, then calculation. Then panic, she stormed back inside. Seconds later, Linda yanked open the front door and shouted something into the house that made Tyler come downstairs holding a bowl of cereal like he had front row seats to Live Theater. My phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then it rang again, then again. Finally, I answered on speaker and set the phone on the dashboard. What? I said. Where is it? Camila demanded. Where is what? My tax return. I smiled. Interesting phrasing. You know exactly what I mean. Do you mean my tax return, the one you discovered by opening federal mail that wasn't addressed to you? You are being unbelievably petty. No, I said. Petty would be replacing your face cream with diaper rash ointment. This is called asset protection. Linda's voice exploded in the background. Put me on, Camila did. Linda came on like an air raid siren in jewelry. You conniving little liar. Those kids are expecting camp. Then perhaps, I said, you shouldn't have promised them luxury horseback trauma recovery camp using stolen financial information. It wasn't stolen. You literally admitted to opening my mail. We're family. We were engaged, I corrected. That is not the same thing as deputizing you to rifle through tax forms like raccoons with acrylic nails. She gasped. I heard Camila start crying behind her, but it was late stage, tactical crying, not pain. Deployment. Aron, Camila said, taking the phone back. Please, don't do this. The kids already know. No, I said. You already told them. Silence. Then the low, dangerous voice she used when sweetness failed. You think you can humiliate me and walk away? Yes, I said, because unlike you, I prepared. I ended the call. Then things got funnier. The next morning, Linda uploaded a video to social media. A full crying monologue filmed in my kitchen, wearing one of my sweaters, standing under my pendant lights, telling the world that a cold-hearted man had promised to step up for 2 children and then vanished with money meant for their healing, growth, and educational development. I watched it twice. Then a third time. Not because of the accusation. Because halfway through the video, behind Linda's left shoulder, sitting clearly visible on the counter, was a stack of opened envelopes with my name on them. 3 of them. Perfectly framed. I laughed so hard, I had to pause the video. Then I saved it. 10 minutes later, she uploaded a second one. In the second video, she got angrier, less coherent, and somehow more useful. She claimed I had always had secrets, and that she only ever checked his mail because women know when something's off. By the third video, she was in full delusional matriarch mode, describing herself as protecting her daughter from financial abandonment. The internet, bless it, divided exactly as expected. Half the commenters called me a monster. The other half wanted to know why a grown woman was wearing her future son-in-law's sweater while admitting on camera to opening his mail. One comment simply read, "Ma'am, this is a felony in lipstick." I screenshotted that too. Then my attorney sent a cease and desist. Not a dramatic one. Not a threatening movie speech, just a dry, elegant notice explaining that public admissions of unauthorized mail access, false financial claims, and defamatory accusations were now preserved and would be used accordingly. Linda deleted all 3 videos. Of course, by then, they had already been reposted in 6 local groups and one legal humor forum where someone captioned her freeze frame with, "When you commit mail fraud for horse camp." Camila called that night. Her voice was different. No tears, no rage, just exhaustion and bargaining. "What do you want?" she asked. The truth would be refreshing. "You ruined everything." "No," I said. I interrupted it. She went quiet. Then, in a much smaller voice, "I needed help." "You needed access," I said. "Those are different words. I was drowning, so you decided to tie me to the boat and call it partnership. That's not fair." I let that sit there between us. Then I said, "There was never any camp registration, was there?" "Nothing." "Answer me." "No," she said at last. The honesty came out so softly it almost sounded clean. "What was the money for?" A pause. Then, debt. The car. Some of Mom's bills, some of mine. Some, she was behind on a procedure. I closed my eyes. A procedure. She already booked it. I laughed before I could stop myself. It was either laugh or start naming every terrible decision that had led me to a relationship where my tax return was being pre-spent on cosmetic injectables, disguised as child enrichment. "You used horseback riding camp to fund your mother's face." It sounds awful when you say it like that. It is awful like that. She broke then. Not theatrically, just in pieces. "I thought if I got through this season," she whispered, "everything would settle down." "No," I said. "You thought if I kept paying, consequences would keep arriving late." That was the last honest conversation we ever had. After that came the twist none of them saw coming. Because while I was investigating Camila, I had also done one thing she never imagined. I set up real education trusts for Tyler and Brooke. Quietly, individually. Not because she asked, because I liked the kids, and because if I was going to help them, I wanted the help beyond her reach. The accounts weren't huge, but they were structured, locked, documented. Funds could only go directly to approved educational programs, tuition, camps, books, tutoring, equipment, or future college expenses. No withdrawals, no temporary borrowing, no emotional storytelling attached. Just actual support. When Camila found out, she lost her mind. Not because I had helped them, because I had helped them in a way she couldn't touch. She showed up in my office 2 weeks later, all sharp heels and wounded fury, with Linda trailing behind like a haunted chandelier. "You had no right," Camila hissed the moment I stepped into the lobby. I looked at the receptionist, who was pretending not to listen and failing magnificently. No right to do what? To put money in accounts for my children without telling me. I tilted my head. "Interesting. You seem very upset by money being used for your children." Linda jumped in. "You did that to make us look bad." "No," I said. "You did that to yourselves. I just removed leakage." Camila's jaw clenched. "You're controlling. I'm specific. You think this makes you some kind of hero?" "No," I said. "It makes me someone who read the fine print." Then Tyler walked in. That part still makes me smile. He had apparently insisted on coming because he wanted to hear the adult lies live. He was 14, angry, smarter than either woman realized, and currently holding the brochure for Silver Pines Camp. He looked at me, then at his mother. "You said he stole camp money," Tyler said flatly. but the trust paperwork says camp can still be paid directly. So either you lied, or Grandma did, or both of you are bad at crime. The receptionist snorted so hard she had to duck behind her monitor. Linda spun around. Tyler, what? He said. You told everyone he abandoned us. But if the money still exists for actual camp, then what were you trying to get cash for? Camila opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. And Brooke, sweet, terrifying Brooke, walked in behind him with a juice box and delivered the finishing blow. Grandma said it was for us, she said. But Mommy told Aunt Sharon she could finally fix Grandma's neck. The lobby went dead silent. I will give Linda one thing. For a woman in her 60s, she moved fast. She turned toward Brooke like she could physically outrun the sentence. But children are wonderful because they don't understand timing, only truth. And the lips, Brooke added. She said the lips are an investment. The receptionist disappeared completely under the desk. I pressed my tongue against the inside of my cheek so I wouldn't laugh in front of the kids. Camila looked like someone had unplugged her spine. Linda managed one final attempt. Brooke, sweetheart, you don't understand what you heard. Brooke nodded thoughtfully. No, I do. Because you said if Aaron gave the money, you'd look rested and expensive. That ended it. Not the relationship that had died weeks earlier. The performance. No speech from me could have done what that 9-year-old did with a juice box. And zero tactical hesitation. Camila sank into one of the lobby chairs and covered her face. Linda started crying, but not in the grand cinematic way she preferred. It was the angry cry of a woman whose scheme had just been explained by a child in pigtails. Tyler looked at me. So, can I still go to camp if it's direct pay? I nodded. If you actually want to go, yes, he shrugged. Cool. I mostly wanted Mom to stop weaponizing kayaking. That was it. That was the line that finally broke me. I laughed. Not a little. A full, helpless laugh I had been carrying in my ribs for a month. Even the receptionist came back up red-faced and wheezing. Brooke looked pleased with herself. Linda looked ready to burst into flames. And Camila finally looked at me, not like a resource, not like an obstacle, not like a man she could still maneuver, just like someone she had misread completely. That afternoon, I took the kids for burgers, with Camila's reluctant permission and under the supervision of more paperwork than a small hostage exchange. We talked about normal things. Tyler wanted robotics camp more than horse camp. Brooke wanted art classes and to maybe learn fencing, in case Grandma gets ideas. I told them the funds were real, structured, and meant for them, not for me to play hero, not for their mother to survive a bad month. For them, Brooke nodded seriously. Can Grandma use it for her neck? No. What about just one lip? No. She accepted that with admirable maturity. In the months that followed, the dust settled the way it always does after a fraud collapses. Loudly, then all at once. Camila sold the SUV she couldn't afford. Linda stopped posting inspirational quotes about family loyalty right around the time my lawyer requested preservation of her deleted video drafts. Greg, the supposedly useless ex, turned out to be useless in many ways, but fascinatingly punctual with his child support once the payment records were properly reviewed. Camila started actual therapy. Tyler went to robotics camp and came back obsessed with drone engineering. Brooke chose art classes and one introductory fencing workshop, then drew a portrait of Linda as an angry flamingo in pearls. She mailed me a copy to my new address, sealed. Months later, Nate asked me over whiskey whether I regretted any of it. The money? I said. The relationship? I thought about that. About the kitchen. The brochure. The open envelopes. The confidence with which they had counted money that was never theirs. The absurdity of watching a grown woman confess to mail tampering while budgeting facelift recovery under children's enrichment. Then I smiled. No, I said. I regret only one thing. What? That I almost married into a family dumb enough to record their own fraud in vertical video. He laughed so hard he nearly spilled his drink. And that, really, was the final turn of the knife. Not that I left. Not that I protected myself. Not even that I outplanned them. It was that when they finally realized the money was gone, the mail rerouted, the accounts secured, the engagement over, the videos saved, the children informed, and the leverage dead, They still thought the cruel part was me smiling. But sometimes, smiling is not cruelty. Sometimes, it's recognition. Sometimes, it's the face a private detective makes when two amateur schemers proudly announce their plan, out loud, hand in the evidence, and then act shocked when he does exactly what he's trained to do. I didn't ruin their scheme. I just made sure it had an audience.